Okay. I admit this is just a fun video to have in my back pocket if I'm ever missing out on content and I just happen to be on a roll right now. So I figured I would do a list of my all-time favorite books that I have on my shelves. I do have an entire shelf dedicated to my favorite books, but I admit a few of them just aren't very pretty, so they aren't on that shelf. And I just want a comprehensive list of my favorites. So here's a short video. Yes, I did it to kill time in case I got lazy. Welcome, I'm Jade of Jaded Reader, and here is my favorite books of all time. Getting these out of the way because you already know what they are, and let's just not kill that much time. I have Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow, and Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. These books are fantastic. I cannot tell you enough how wonderful, uplifting, whimsical, and in-depth they are. They make you think, they make you feel, and it's all encased in this euphoric, wonderful world called Nevermore. So I will only talk about the first book, Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. This is a story that follows Morrigan, and she lives in a dreadful house with dreadful people in a very dreary, dreadful world. She's known to be a cursed child, and because of that, everyone in the town blames her for all of their problems. This is a lot for Morrigan to take on, and over time, despite her realizing it's absurd and ridiculous, she starts to believe it herself. Many people can identify with being told you are something you are not enough times for you to feel like you must be that thing. Morrigan is swept away to a place called Nevermore by the handsome, he's not really handsome, I just like him, Jupiter North, and she is taken on as his ward in this mystical realm. Now, everyone in this realm has knacks or special things about them that make them special. Morrigan is unsure if there is anything about her that is special, and it's a really compelling question that is constantly probed throughout this story. Is Morrigan actually special? And if so, what is it about her? I honestly felt this entire time like I couldn't pinpoint what was so special about this book until I got to the end, and it's continued on in Wondersmith in such a nuanced way that it makes it really palpable for young kids while also being a wonderful exploration for adults. I am an adult and I just can't help it. I can't stop talking about them. Okay, taking a huge break from Nevermore, I have books about death, destruction, and what it means to live in the first place, and that is the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. I don't have the toll physically, but I will eventually be owning it. Scythe itself is a dystopian, utopian novel where you have scythes that are helping cut back on population growth as the world has become overpopulated in its utopian form. Humans have conquered death, and that's the basic premise of what is going on. However, it is the world building that really drew me in here. There's so many intricate parts and details to this world. I really do feel that this is one of my favorite world building techniques where you're drawn in and you understand it quite quickly, and then it's just expanded upon and there's layers thrown on. While I read Scythe, it could have been a standalone, but by the time I got to Thunderhead, I realized there was so much more to this world, and it was so heart-wrenching. I just could not stop reading, and when I read Toll, it broke me. The characters are absolutely fantastic, but it's the discussions that they are having in this book that make them incredibly important to read. Then I have my much hated, but to me much beloved book where I feel it is an excellent representation of witchcraft. I don't feel seen or recognized as a witch when I'm reading books about witches such as Harry Potter. Those witches are lots of fun, but it's not what I mean when I say I practice witchcraft. So it's nice to have a book where witchcraft means putting together herbs, being really in tune with yourself, and alone on an island, Cersei does just that. Cersei is the daughter of the god Helios, and she is banished to the island of Aia, where she is completely alone and solitary in her thoughts. Part of the reason she's sent there is because she has something that the gods fear, and that is magic. She's able to create out of nature, and because of that, she is feared as gods like to create things out of nothing. Cersei is a really slow-paced book, but it's also incredibly calming, and there are lots of hard-hitting moments which had more impact for me because I spent so much time with this character, and it's just a beautiful book. Not everyone loves this book, but I stand by it. You can call it boring all you want. I will take my boring book to the forest and read it all by my lonesome with no problem. My next book has such a special place in my heart, and I always have a hard time pinpointing exactly why, and that is Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. These are the special Illumicrate editions, and I absolutely adore them. Strange the Dreamer follows Laszlo Strange in the most boring half of a book you can possibly imagine. He is a scholar who is not very sure of himself, and while he has all of these book smarts, he has absolutely no people smarts, and he just has the passion to find a lost city that has no name. Now, the city that has no name has a lot of anticipation and build up to it, but I really urge you to pay less attention to the city itself and more the characters that live in it. I ended up finding that this book didn't fully reach its impact until the end, and it led me right into Muse of Nightmares, which broke my very soul. These books I think of together as a single entity, and I just can't imagine my life without them. A character that is often not mentioned in the synopsis of this is Cersei. Cersei is able to step into people's dreams, and with that power comes great responsibility and a lot of troublemaking. Cersei is one of many siblings, and the siblings have ulterior motives in order to use Cersei's abilities that really ends up bringing the plot together. After that, I have A Curse so Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmer. I love this book. I am almost embarrassed every time I say so because I thought I was going to dislike this book. I went into it feeling like silly picking it up because it was a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which is a story I don't even actually like. I don't like Beauty and the Beast. However, Curse so Dark and Lonely took everything I disliked about Beauty and the Beast and turned it on its head. I love the main character, Harper. Harper is truly a beauty inside and out. I loved her fire, her character, her drive. Harper is a character with cerebral palsy in our modern world, and Ren, who is in a fantasy world. And when Ren needs to find someone to marry in order to lift a curse, Harper is transported to his world by accident, and the two are stuck together, knowing that neither of them will fall in love with the other. It was fantastic. One of these side characters is a favorite of mine and ends up playing a very major role in the second book, which is A Heart So Fierce and Broken. I read the arcs over the summer, and I couldn't believe I had to wait for the second book, and now that the second book is out, I don't even own it, and I'm just waiting for the third, and it will always remain on this shelf. This next book just does not get nearly enough rep, and I absolutely adored it. I have the second book, and I cannot wait to read it, and that is Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpretto. Crown of Feathers is about two sisters who are trying to become phoenix riders. In the past, their kingdom was filled with warrior women who rode on phoenix, and now that their kingdom has been conquered, the phoenix riders have been disbanded and phoenix have been killed off. However, our two main characters are looking for phoenix to reignite their family's honor. This halfway through ends up being a girl secretly dressed as a boy trope, and it's a trope I really like, and I thought it was dealt with in a way I hadn't seen previously done, where gender didn't play a major role as far as the romance goes, and that really stuck out to me as something different and unique. So I'm really excited for the next book to see where that all goes. Next up is a series that I absolutely adore. It's a series that I will always stand by because I really enjoy this author's writing, and these characters are some of my best friends. So you can dislike this series all you want, but these characters are definitely real to me, and they are very close to my heart, and that is the characters in the Raven Cycle series by Maggie Stiefvater. I have the Raven Boys, the Dream Thieves, Blue Lily Lily Blue, and the Raven King here. However, my absolute favorite in the series is the Dream Thieves, as it follows Ronan's perspective, and Ronan is a character to be analyzed. He is my friend that probably doesn't even like to be around me, but I am just grateful to be by his side. He's an angry dude with lots of trauma who can pull dreams from his mind. However, Ronan is known to have nightmares, and those nightmares come into existence, especially in the Dream Thieves. I really love all of the characters in this book. Ronan holds a special place in my heart, but really in the broad spectrum of things, they're all wonderful characters with so much to explore that reading these books really isn't about the story, the plot, or the destination. It's about getting to know the characters along the way and just enjoying your friend's company as you look for a dead Welsh king in West Virginia. Following that, I read the spin-off series Call Down the Hock by Maggie Stiefvater. This is just Ronan's entire series. He gets a series of his own because he's that good. Call Down the Hock, I cannot explain quite to you without causing spoilers, so I will just say it's a further in-depth exploration into Ronan's life after the Raven Cycle series is finished, and there were some major characters from the first series who make appearances. I wanted more, but I just found this book so enjoyable, and there were so many mind-twisting moments that I wanted to read it again as soon as I finished because I did not understand everything I read, and yet somehow I enjoyed it the entire way through. The next book is definitely one that I've recently enjoyed, and I don't know if it will actually stay on my favorite shelf. I have it on my favorite shelf right now because it's how I'm feeling about the book right now. I don't know if time will fade these feelings because they're still so fresh, but I really enjoyed Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. This is a huge move for me. This is a very large, very strange statement that I am enjoying Sarah J. Maas enough to put her on my favorites bookshelf because in the past, me and Sarah J. have not really gotten along, and yet I read this book and I just enjoyed it. I have an entire vlog dedicated to my experience with that, and I will have it right here. Just know I really appreciated everything this book ended up offering as far as the main character and all of the freaking plot twists. I will not give a synopsis of this book because I feel that the synopsis is fairly spoilery. Some things to know is that you are dealing with the grief and loss of a loved one, and it is a crime-solving novel to its core. In the end, I would say urban paranormal fiction. This is Sarah J. Maas's first adult work in which the characters are indeed adults, and it's taking place after college, so you have some of that new adult feel with just a lot of Sarah J. Maas tropes done, in my opinion, right. Then I have Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I was thankful enough to get to meet Tomi Adeyemi in person when I was getting her second book signed. I ended up not feeling that same connection to the second book as I did to this first one, but oh wow, do I love this world and these characters. Zélie grew up in a time where the country of Orisha hummed with magic, and she was part of the Reaper clan in which she was able to deal with the dead. There are several different clans going over a lot of different elements, including fire, spirits, air, dream, animals, you name it, there's a clan for it, and all of this magic is at one point ripped from the earth, and Zélie is on a mission to get it back. I absolutely loved the plot line of this book, and there were so many intense and beautiful moments with really fleshed out scenery, and I just felt so much while reading this book, and I couldn't help turning every page until I had finished the last one. Then there's Baron the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is such a beautiful book. Currently I am reading the second in the series, which is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. I haven't heard from a single fan of this book that the series doesn't just get better and better, and I'm really relieved because this book just held a special place in my heart. I really love Vasya, who is our main character, and she is growing up in this rural Russian village. She's surrounded by wilderness and snow. Her village praises several gods for several different parts of their lives, and when a priest comes to town and challenges whether or not these gods are actually killing them, Vasya's village turns on her, and Vasya is meant to take care of all of these spirits by herself, still upholding the same values that her village had before the priest came in. I usually grow quite uncomfortable when it comes to converting and religion. I have suffered those sorts of pressures in my life, and some of them were in very forceful ways, and I really felt for Vasya's story, as well as how her character was viewed in the first half of the story and how her character was viewed in the second half as she got older. This was so hard-hitting and beautifully written, and I believe it'll always be a favorite of mine. Then I have the only poetry book I've ever enjoyed. I'm just not much of a poetry person, but I bawled, cried, screamed as I read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have just never read something quite like this. I ended up listening to this on audiobook while reading it physically, and it just ruined me. I was completely destroyed. I stayed up until about 6 o'clock in the morning because I could not stop. Once it got to a certain point, I just felt so many things that she was feeling, and the fact that this is a poetry collection about a poetry collection, and you can't tell if this is the poetry poetry collection. There are some hard-hitting moments in this book, some really beautiful prose, and just some very intense scenes. I love the Poet X, and it'll always be a favorite of mine. Then we're coming back with another Maggie Stiefvater. However, this might be, if the Raven Boys didn't exist, this is definitely the runner-up favorite, and this is the standalone novel, The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I tried explaining this when I first started BookTube, and it was a train wreck. Don't even know if that video is still there. Do not look for it. So this is the story of Puck and Sean. Puck has always loved horses, and she lives in a village by the sea. Sean is a character who rides horses for a living, and he is so good at it that he is paid to ride in horse races. Now, these are not regular horse races. In these races, you don't race horses, you race this bloodthirsty creature called a kapalishka, which is a sea monster horse-like beast that is twice as fast and very bloodthirsty. There are some creepy scenes in this. And when Puck enters this competition, she's not entering with a kapalishka, but with her own horse. There's so much leading up to this until the end. I truly didn't know who I wanted to win this race, and I've never cared about horse racing, but I felt the adrenaline coursing through my veins as they raced across the sand. I don't know how she did it. I read this book quite quickly, and I still have the entire story from beginning to end perfectly imprinted in my mind. I just loved it. It was a perfect beginning to end standalone. It's what you want in a standalone, where you feel fulfilled. So, The Scorpio Races, a book I never talk about as much, but is definitely a favorite of mine. Next up, I have an entire shelf dedicated to the Tamara Pierce books, starting with Alana's Adventure and ending with the Tempest and Slaughter series that just came out a few years ago. I'm holding up her Tortall and Other Lands series because it is the land of Tortall that I love. Tamara Pierce has created a world that I know the entire history of back and front, the different cultures, religions, islands, and I know this world. I know the legends of Tortall. I know the neighboring kingdoms. Everything about this world is just inside of me, and if I am ever in a bad mood or feeling displaced, I can pick up a random book in any of these series, flip it open, and feel like I'm home. Tamara Pierce has created just a beautiful story in a fantastical medieval realm where you start the first book with Alana, who wants to be a knight. However, women are sent to a monastery to become priestesses and to learn magic, while men are sent to the castle to become knights. But Alana is determined to become a knight and switches places with her twin brother in order to enter the castle and gain her knighthood. This was my ultimate dream growing up. I really wanted to be a knight, and this just fulfilled everything I ever wanted. Nothing came easy to her, but she fought and battled literally, mentally, and emotionally. I love Alana, and I love all of the characters that came after her. You get dragons, mystical creatures, island worlds with their own complex cultures, and a lot of different political intrigue that I never even realized was shaping who I was until I realized that I have a lot of values that came from Tamara Pierce's books, and so they'll always be my favorite. After that, I have some graphic novels that have always stood out to me. I have mentioned the first two quite a few times on my channel, and that is, of course, the Tea Dragon Society and Tea Dragon Festival. In the first one, you have these two girls who are learning friendship and how to take care of these cute little tea dragons. It's filled with diversity, and that only continues on more in depth in the Tea Dragon Festival, which is quite large compared to the first one. This really was a treat. There's sign language incorporated into this book. You have this guardian-like dragon character who ends up sleeping a little too late and doesn't guard this village. I can relate to that so heavily. I go into it quite in depth in my recent reads of graphic novels, where I show some pictures and images, so if you'd like to check that out, it'll be right up there. But these are oh so wonderful. If you're ever in a bad mood, I highly recommend these books. They make me feel so good. Then finally, for graphic novels, I have a few dark ones that I don't talk about as often. The first being the adult graphic novel Saga. This is very well known. It's a very popular graphic novel series. I finished it up until the point where they have not made it anymore so far. The last one in the series really ripped me apart, but this essentially is going on during a huge war between different planets, and these two different characters, who are two different species, are at war and end up having a baby with fierce determination and an incredible amount of love. They are traveling the galaxy to try and protect their child, and you get to watch this child grow up, and all of the different characters inside are just so fantastic. Lion Cat is my all-time favorite character in this story, and it is a cat that can detect when you are lying and simply yells out lying and calls you out immediately upon lying, which leads to some fantastically beautiful scenes. If you've read this series, you'll know that Lion Cat really is both a lie detector as well as just being able to show you she's trying to be Lion Cat, as well as just being able to show how beautiful a character really is when they are feeling down. Then I have a graphic novel I don't know if I've ever mentioned on my channel, but it's still pretty planted into my brain. I can't look away from it, and it is horrific. I recommend it to a person who really likes dark, horrible stories and really in-depth narratives and that like to analyze art. This is Beautiful Darkness by Fabian Vellman, and it follows quite a few different characters as they travel through this forest, and I don't actually think I can describe much more besides saying it's intense, it's dark, there's death, and it kind of feels like a Studio Ghibli version of Lord of the Flies, where all of these characters are deceptively cute and you'll feel sick inside. But some people really like that, and sometimes that person is me. And with that, those are all of my favorite books. On my shelves, I have so many books that I've loved and enjoyed. They're on there for a reason, but some of these books just hold a special place in my heart. If you're new to my channel, this kind of gives you a fresh start. If you've been on my channel for a while, this was a huge overview, and I'm kind of really sorry about that. But regardless, I would love to know your favorite book, or maybe your favorite 3. If you could list them in order, what would your 3 favorite books be? Go ahead, challenge yourself, list your 3 favorites down below, and I hope you're enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are. And until next time, bye! I would say Nevermore, Scythe, and probably Strange the Dreamer, though that leaves out the Raven Boys, and that kind of makes me physically ill. For my kids, I don't have kids, but if I had them, I would read them these books that she had before. God. I don't know if it will... I'm holding up a backwards book. Enough rep. Oh, I'm getting her. I'm not doing this. Okay, I'm gonna put you down. You're not gonna be bad. Say sorry to everyone. Say, I'm sorry that I yell during all of Jade's videos. I'm sorry all of her bloopers are me screaming and her yelling back at me. I won't do it anymore. Say it. Should be a little bit ashamed.